Hi, welcome back. So let's start with the first lesson related to driving theory in Belgium for Category B license. So as we discussed, we will go over all these 7 lessons and we will do the lesson 1 today. So we will talk about the introduction to traffic boards. So what's the general rules? Always pay attention and follow the traffic boards. Very obvious. The traffic boards are of 6 categories. So these are warning boards, priority boards, obligatory boards, prohibitory boards, parking boards, and information boards. So what are these boards? Warning boards is something that warns you, there might be a danger ahead. So these are the boards that will warn you. We will see further how these boards look like, and how we can remember these boards. So priority boards are giving you priority at a junction, which means that who lets you know who has to first enter the junction. Obligatory boards are mandatory boards, so you cannot ignore these boards. You must follow these boards. So if an obligatory board instructs you to do something, you have to follow that. Prohibitory boards are boards which prohibit or stop you from doing something. They put a stop. You should not do something. Obligatory boards and prohibitory boards are exactly opposite to each other. Next, there are parking boards, which let you know more about the parking, where you can park, from what time to what time, who is allowed to park, and all those parking regulations. Then there are information boards, which provide you more information, which will help you in reaching your destination easily, right? So let's look at each of these boards. Now, so here's a picture of traffic boards, and as you can see, there are also this traffic on the road. There is a traffic there's a road marking. So what is the most important thing about the traffic boards? Traffic boards, we also call them traffic signs. So you will hear me referring to these as traffic boards or traffic signs, even road markings. These are usually placed on the right. So it's very important to remember they are usually placed on the right. Sometimes the traffic boards may be placed above a lane or can be repeated on the left. So as you can see, this is the road, and then there are traffic boards which are placed to the right side of the road. Okay, so let's say, by the way, as we move through this lesson, I will show you more pictures of more examples, so you will be able to understand much better. So we will see more examples of these boards which are placed on the right. So this is the road and you are driving in this direction. So these boards are placed on your right. They might be repeated on the left, but if a traffic board is only on the left, then you can safely ignore it. If the traffic board is not on your right side, if it is only on your left, then that traffic board is not meant for you. Okay, it can be the traffic board, it can be the traffic light. If it's only on the left, it doesn't apply to you. We will see this as we move through the lesson. So in Belgium, traffic signs are placed on the right because vehicles drive on the right side of the road. So it's more convenient, more easy to stay focused, to keep looking on your right and then continue driving. Okay. So here's an example, like for the blue car, this is the board which says starting of built up area, which is placed on the right. And for the red car, this board is being shown from the other side. And this is end of built up area, which is again placed on the right side for this red car. Okay. So here's an example where the traffic boards are placed on the right and they are also repeated on the left. So it's a road with 2 and here 3 lanes. So the traffic board is placed on the right and then repeated on the left. And here's an example where the traffic boards are also repeated on the top of the of the road. Okay, as we see the two examples where the traffic boards are repeated on the left and on the top. Okay, so here it shows the speed limit on the road, and this is on the right as well as on the left. So as I said, it is very important to note that if there is no traffic board to your right, then the regulation does not apply to you. Okay. Here's a very good example. So as you can see, there is a speed limitation of 50 kilometers, and there it's placed on this verge, elevated verge, and there are vehicles. There's a road to the left of the verge, also a road to the right of the verge. So you can see the vehicles on the left as well as on the right. So as we discussed, traffic boards are placed on the right, which means that only the vehicles on this road should follow this traffic board. Now, the vehicles that are driving here on the left should follow this 50 kilometers per hour speed. The vehicles on the right side, they can continue driving at the speed that was already imposed on them. Maybe they are already driving at 70 kilometers per hour, so they can continue driving at 70 kilometers per hour. This traffic sign does not apply to them. Okay. And these circular boards, red with a red border, red is always dangerous. So you can remember that. A circular board with a red border always implies a prohibition. Okay, something that you must not do. Here, what's the prohibition? The prohibition is that you should not exceed 50 kilometers per hour. You can drive still at 45, you can drive at 40 kilometers, 43 kilometers, but you are not allowed to exceed 50 kilometers per hour. That is the prohibition. Okay. Now, here are some other examples of the boards that are placed for prohibition. Let's see. So here is a prohibition board, which is, again, as I said, a round board is okay. A round board with a red border, as I said, red is always dangerous. A round board with a red border is always prohibition. So here it's a prohibition for traffic to enter in both the directions on this road. Here, the prohibition is to turn right. So the vehicles or the vehicles are not allowed to turn right except for the bicycles and whatever exception is here. But we will look at this more in detail. So there is another prohibition which is no entry. So as you can see, these two boards are complementary. So this is again a red board, round board, which means it's a prohibition. So any round board with a red border or red filled in is a prohibition. Okay, we will see more examples as we move through this course. There are more boards, traffic boards, which impose such prohibition. And then the round boards are either prohibition. In this case, it's a prohibition. There is another round board which is blue, and that is obligation. So remember, round boards are very important. Okay, they will either prohibit you from doing something or they will put some obligation. Okay, you must follow or you must not follow. So round boards are very important. In this case, a round board with a red border or red filled in is a prohibition. There are other round boards with blue which indicate an obligation. And what is important about obligation? Let's move here. So as you can see, these are round boards again, but these are boards filled in red color, and these are obligation boards. Here it says you must turn left here. Okay, you're not allowed to turn right. And here it indicates where you must drive. It indicates that you must drive here. So these boards, obligation boards, need not be placed on the right. As we just discussed, almost all the time, the traffic boards and traffic signs must be placed on the right side, right? In this case, the obligatory board are the only board which may be placed wherever they are best visible. Okay. So these are obligatory boards, or they are also called as compulsory. You have to follow these compulsorily. In this case, turn left. In this case, just follow the road from here. Then there are other boards which are rectangular boards, which are for information boards, and you may follow them or you may ignore them. It's up to you. So in this case, if you want to go towards this place called Herentals, then you take the exit. It's up to you. You can ignore the board and just continue driving in this case. So here again, this is for your information, which lets you know that this street is a one-way street. So you can still continue, but it makes you aware that it's a one-way street. It gives you more information. So what are the exceptions to these general rules? As we discussed, obligatory boards, remember, obligatory boards are round boards with a blue background, okay, blue color filled in. So these may be placed where they are best visible. They may be placed on the right, they may be placed on the left, middle of the road. It doesn't matter. We will see more examples as we move through this training, through this lesson. Okay, in the next section, we will see how to identify these different boards. Okay, now let's see how we identify these different boards. So we will discuss those 6 type of boards, right? So let's start with a warning board. A warning is danger. Red color is danger. So warning board also has a red border. A prohibition board, remember, a round board with a red border is a prohibition board. Similarly, a triangle board with a red border is a warning board. Okay, so these are usually triangle shaped boards with red border, and these are usually placed 150 meters before the actual place of danger. Okay, so why is that so? I mean, it's not placed at a point where the danger is. It is placed 150 meters before the point where the danger is. So you might get questions like this in your exam. So you should remember that these boards are placed 150 meters before the point of danger, which helps you, in fact, to adapt your speed. The moment you see this board, a warning board, you know that there's danger ahead, so you can adapt your speed, and then you're well prepared to drive through that situation. Okay. So the image on the left is, gives a warning board which indicates that there might be children on, crossing the road. And below that, it says 150 meter ahead. So it's a blue plate, which gives more information on this warning board. So now, even if the plate was not there, this situation is at 150 meters. In some cases, the blue plate might say, okay, 50 meters, which means that, okay, in this case, it's not 150 meters, but at the warning situation or the danger situation is at 50 meters. Okay, that can be indicated by a blue plate. So on the picture on the right indicates another warning, slippery road, but at a distance of 150 meters. So you might be driving here at, let's say, 70. The moment you see this board, you know that, okay, there is slippery road ahead, so I have to adapt my speed accordingly. Okay, so unless indicated, this warning is at a distance of 150 meters before the actual place of danger. Okay, so let's proceed. Now let's move on to the priority boards. The priority board is, again, there are few types of priority boards, but triangle with a red border is one of the priority board. But what is the difference? The difference is, in a priority board, it looks like a warning board. It's a with border, a triangle with a red border. Of course, it's a warning board. Why? Because there is a junction ahead. So you need to be aware that there is a junction ahead. The traffic might be coming from any direction. the visibility might not be complete. So of course it's a warning board, but in addition to that, it's a priority board, which indicates, okay, there is a thick line and one or more thin lines. So indicates who has priority, who will enter the junction first. We will talk a lot about priority in the priority chapter, but here it is only for you to understand that a warning board and a priority board might will look similar, but a priority board indicates who has priority at the junction. Then there can be a blue plate, which will also indicate priority. And these are also priority roads. Again, there is a thick line, which indicates the priority, the road that has priority at that junction. And then there are one or more multiple thin lines. Thin lines indicate the roads that don't have priority. Thin line indicates the traffic on the thin line road must give priority to the traffic which is on the thick line road. Okay, so if you're driving on the thick line road, for example, if you're driving here and you're taking a right turn, then you have priority. Okay, any traffic coming from the left will give you priority in this case. And again, if you look at the photo on the right side, this is also a priority board, but it is an inverted triangle. This is called a shark teeth. It looks like a teeth. It will be followed by road markings, but we will discuss that later. So basically, when you see this kind of shark teeth or an inverted triangle, it means that you must give priority to the other traffic. Okay, so you don't have any priority at this junction, but you must give priority to the other traffic. We will discuss a lot about priority as we in the priority chapter. So here it's just for you to show how a priority board looks like. Now there is another priority board which is very, very different from all other boards. It's a board with 6 corners, hexagon, and a stop is written on this board, which means that, why is this board in this hexagon? Because this indicates that the junction could be very dangerous junction. So from far, when you see this hexagon, you should know, okay, I must stop here and I must give priority. So this is also another priority board. So what's the difference between this stop sign and the shark teeth, that we discussed? So basically, when you see a shark teeth, it's not important if you don't stop, right? If you see that the road is totally empty, you can just drive carefully into the junction. However, when you see a stop board, it doesn't matter if there is traffic, it doesn't matter, nothing matters. You must stop the car and only then you should drive into the junction. Even in your practical exam, when you have this stop board, you must stop the car fully. It should be at 0. And then only when the junction is safe, when it is safe for you to enter the junction, only then you should be entering the junction. So this is also a priority board. Now let's move on to the obligatory boards. And these are boards that you must follow compulsorily. And these are usually the blue round boards. So what we discussed already, a round board is very important that you must always pay attention to. Okay, if a round board has a red border or a red background, it's a prohibition. If it is a blue background, it is obligation. Okay, in this case, we have 2 examples. On the left, there is this obligatory board which is placed on the left, which indicates, okay, go from here. And you see the board is not placed on the right. So an obligatory board may be placed at any place where it is best visible. Now there is another obligatory board on the right in the right image, which is placed on the right side, which means, and the obligatory board says, at the next junction, you are only allowed to take right or turn right or go straight ahead, which means that at the next junction you cannot take a left turn. Okay, so it gives you obligation that you must follow only these rules. Moving on to the prohibition boards. These are boards that indicate prohibitions, things that are not allowed. So prohibition to turn right, prohibition to enter the street, prohibition to enter the street on both ways. So these are some of the things that we we should remember when we immediately see a red round board. It is something that you must never do, not do. It is prohibition. It is an offense when you ignore the prohibition. Okay. The next are parking boards. So these are very similar to the information boards, rectangular boards. But what is different from the information board and the parking board is that there is a big P written on a parking board. Okay. So it's an information board. You can ignore this board. For example, if you don't want to park your car, you can just continue driving. But then, it gives you the rules and regulations for parking. For example, there can be plates below this parking board which give more information. In this case, the parking is only allowed for 30 minutes. The parking is allowed on both sides of this board, before this board and after this board. Okay. So this parking here is for less abled drivers. Okay. So these are the parking boards. The last one is the information board. As we discussed, these are rectangular blue boards which give you more information. Okay, you are free to follow or you're free to ignore these boards. Then there are under plates. These are usually blue or white plates placed below the traffic board. Okay, for example, as we see here, this is a blue plate which says that, okay, the parking is limited to maximum 30 minutes. And this white plate here indicates that parking is allowed on both in both side of this board, in the front, after this board, and before this board as well. Okay. All right, so let's quickly summarize. I have put some boards here. So as you can see, the two boards here are warning boards. This board here on the left indicates that you're approaching a dangerous left turn. And this board on the right, so basically this is more than left turn, it's a left bend. It's not really a turn, it's a left bend that you're approaching. And this board here on the right indicates that you are approaching at 150 meters, you will be approaching a steep descent. There is a difference between ascent and descent. So this road actually goes down. How do you know this road goes down and not up? Because we always read the board from left to right. Okay. Or we read the board from bottom to up. Okay. In this case, if we read from left to right, it indicates we will be at a higher position and this will be a steep down. Okay, of 7%. Then here, these are the bottom two boards these are warning boards, but then these are priority boards. So this one is indicating that, the road that you're driving on, you have priority at the next junction. And there is another road that is coming from the right, but they will have to give you priority. And this board indicates it's a crossroad where the priority from right applies. Okay. And here are some obligatory boards, mandatory boards. The board indicates that you must turn right at the next junction. And here, this is an obligatory board indicates the part of the road where that can be used by the pedestrians and the cyclists. So the cyclist and the pedestrians must use that part of the road where it is indicated by this board. So here there are prohibition boards. As you can see, this is a prohibition board which indicates no entry for drivers. of motor vehicle with more than two wheels. And here it's a prohibition, but it's a prohibition for parking. Okay, but still it's a prohibition. You know, it's a round board with one line marked across, which means it's a prohibition for parking. If there are two lines like this, then it's prohibition for parking and waiting. So you are not allowed to park where you see this board. Then there's our parking boards indicating that it's a zone where you have to use the blue disc for parking, indicating the time. But we will discuss about this in the parking lesson. And this is another board where it indicates that you must park your vehicle with all the wheels on the elevated verge. Okay. And these are again information boards indicating that you are entering a motorway. These are boards indicating lane selection depending on which direction you want to go into. So these are additional plates which give you more information. Okay, so that's about the lesson. Now let's look at some of the examples. All right, so I'm using Google Maps here to show you some examples. So if I here, let me zoom in. So as you can see, this board is a prohibition board. We should now be able to very clearly say that this is a prohibition board, this is an obligatory board, this is a parking board, this is a warning board, and this is a priority board. Okay, so this is a prohibition board, red board with round board with red border or red filled in. So this board is placed on the right. Okay, so if I move here, you cannot see a board here, which means that if you try to enter this road from here, this board comes to your right, which means that this board applies to you, which means that you're not allowed to enter this street from here. Okay. Now there is another obligation board, a blue board, which is placed indicating that you must drive from here, which means that you cannot drive from this side. Okay. Now this is another example where you can see that the no entry board is placed on the right side of this road. So if I go a little further on this road, maybe not so much. If I, yes, so if I zoom in, as you can see, you are not allowed to enter this street from this direction because a no entry board is placed on your right. So there are other boards also placed on your right of this street. You cannot see that those boards on your left, but those are placed on the right. Okay, so the traffic boards are placed on the right hand side of the road. Okay. Now here's another example for a prohibition board. There are many prohibitions here in this board. So again, if you just move to the left, let me zoom out. Yeah. So we just see these boards on the right hand side, right? So if the boards were here, these boards would not have applied to us. But now because it's on the right, it applies to us. So what prohibitions do we see here? So the prohibition for vehicles which are more than let's 3.5 meters in height, which means trucks will not be allowed. Again, vehicles which are more than 3.5 tons, which means again the trucks are not allowed on this road. And this is a prohibition for vehicles which are carrying pollutants, okay, dangerous goods. So these are red color prohibition boards. So any vehicle that belongs, to these categories is not allowed to drive in this road. So here's a board indicating warning, which means that there are road works which are being carried out here at 150 meters. So you have to be careful about that. So here's a priority board. Let me zoom in. As you can see, this is a priority board indicating that the vehicles driving on this road, because you always read the traffic sign from bottom to up. So you are driving on this road and you have priority at this junction. As you can see, this car coming from the right also has this sharp teeth on this road, right? Which means the car has to give priority to the traffic that is already on this road. So here's the last example where we see an information board. If I zoom in, then it is giving me information about the lanes that one has to take if they have to drive in a particular direction. So all the traffic that needs to go straight, they have to go take this lane, and the left two lanes, the last two lanes here, or the last lane is reserved for bus. Okay, that's a reserved bus lane. We will talk about this as we move through this course, but this was just to give you an introduction and hope you have now a good understanding of what these boards are and how they look like. So it should, there are a lot of exam questions which depend on this. So just practice it again, just look at some boards and just say, okay, this is a prohibition board, this is an obligation board. So these concepts must now be clear to you. All right, so we will see each other again in the next lesson, which will be on priority. Thank you.